You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
It has been quite an ordeal to get to recording time today for this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. I had a whole thing. Getting food was a pain, and figuring out how to fix a corrupted audio file was a pain for an interview that we have today. And everything's a pain, but here we are. Hello. Hello.
You're making Arizona sound so lovely, Tyler.
It's just, what a bear to be down here for spring training. No, it's been great. Hi, everyone. I'm Tyler Mon. He's Sam Dykstra. It's this week's episode of the Show Before the Show from MILB.com. We are in your podcast feeds as Minor League Baseball Podcast, and that's what we talk on this show. Hello, Sam. You're back. You're in New York.
Hello, Tyler. I am back in New York, yes. I was briefly in New York to begin the week and then had to go up to Massachusetts and New Hampshire for some things. And now I walked into my house here in Brooklyn about 15 minutes before we talked.
Oh, so, okay. I didn't realize it was that
I am
close.
in New York for the long haul. I am here until opening day. And, yeah.
That is fantastic. Before we get started on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show, I want to extend, we've got a buddy in the office, Andrew Batafrano, who is as tough of a dude as anybody you will ever meet. And Andrew deals with Crohn's disease, and he has been having some issues as of the last few weeks. Has been in and out of the hospital, and he posted a picture earlier today, and he was there post surgery with his gown on and the oxygen on, and we're all behind you, man. We just wanted to let you know that we're thinking of you. And Andrew and I have actually never even met in person, but he's such a good dude, and he's such an easy guy for us to work with, and he's as tough as they come, tough as nails, as they say.
Yeah, and he's Andrew and I actually went. I don't think we were at BU at the same time, but we both come from the same student newspaper. So
same stock.
Yeah, he's BU tough for sure, and yeah, we can't wait till he's back up with a MILB.com byline once again, which hopefully will be very soon.
Hopefully will be soon. So with that, thanks for joining us on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. Wherever you found us, you can give us a rating and a review and a subscription. You can give us a follow on the tweets as well. Andrew might have the best Twitter handle of all of us, by the way. He is at Andrew at Bat, B-A-T-T, because his last name, Batafrano. Sam's at Sam Dykstra, MILB. I am at Tyler Mon. And you can get in touch with the show, podcast at MILB.com. We had a guy email in last week. He hates the new music. Change is always it always comes with pushback. We had to grab people, stun them.
Yes. I think people. This is our third new theme song, right? We've gone through three iterations.
And we're in season number 5 of the show. So because the last one that we used for 2 full seasons and all the way into the start of this year. Man, we're had to get a redesign at some point.
Yeah, you know what we should have done? We should have done like The Wire and just done the same notes, just in different styles.
That would have been great
every time. Did you ever notice that about The Wire?
I never watched The Wire.
That's okay. Okay. I'm not going to be that type of person who's going to get on.
Person.
No, I won't be that type of person.
Whew. Thank goodness. No, I started it at one time and then, got sidetracked and never went back to it. I really need to. The problem is I have a bad attention span nowadays in the year 2019 with things that are not in HD. And the early seasons of The Wire are like in the old letterbox standard def format, and I flip it on. I'm like, what is this? What am I watching? Newsreel footage from the 1920s? It's terrible.
I was going to say 1992, but yeah, that might as well feel like the 20s now.
It's a terrible problem to have. So anyway, thanks for joining us this week. You can give us a rating, a review, and a subscription, and get in touch. And with that, we'll get started on Three Strikes. I'm in Arizona. That's what we're going to talk about. Sam is back from Florida. We'll talk about that in Strike 2. I'm going to tell you about Arizona here in Strike 1. Sam, let me get your thoughts on this. I was texting about this with a buddy of mine who's down here for the month as well, and discussing. It seems like a lot more of the prospect excitement right now is on your side in Florida. Not to say that there aren't exciting prospects here in Arizona. There obviously are. Fernando Tatis Jr. is here, although he's been a big league camp. Didn't get a chance to see him. Eloy Jimenez is here, although in some contract news, we'll talk about that. And he was apparently under the weather today. Was thinking about trying to head out to White Sox camp after that news came through. But he did not play from what I heard. Was scheduled to go in a minor league game. But Vlad Guerrero Jr., obviously a Gulf Coast League guy. Victor Robles, MLB.com's number 4, a Gulf Coast guy. Royce Lewis, number 5 as well. Forrest Whitley and Kyle Tucker, number 7 and 8. Alex Kirilloff, number 9. Bo Bichette, number 11. It just seems like the systems here, while there are good systems, I remember a couple years ago, Josh Jackson and I had no idea how we were going to cover everything that we wanted to get to. And this year's just a little bit more muted around here. There are a lot of top prospects that have graduated. I think a lot of the talent and the systems over here is a little bit younger, is a little bit more down the line. There's also some guys who we weren't going to get a chance to talk to because of injuries and other things. Joe Adele kind of comes to mind for that. But it seems just like a different vibe out here this year for some reason.
Yeah, I guess you could kind of speak to that better than I could. I don't know. I can't say that I've looked at Arizona and just thought like, nah, there's nothing there for me. And that's why I go to Florida. I just go to Florida because obviously it's easier to get down there for me here on the East Coast. But I mean, yeah, you look around Florida and there's certainly excitement almost at every turn. I mean, I was not wanting for stories, even going to the Yankees system last week. I thought that might be like, the only reason I'm here is because it makes most sense with my schedule, but otherwise there aren't any prospects here that I'm really excited about. And then you arrive in camp and you start thinking like, oh no, there are a lot of really high octane arms here. And let me get some thoughts on that. And had a really good Q&A on that. And then seeing Josh Stowers homer. So I've never really thought about it that way. I mean, I'm really happy with the stops I made, and getting to see Rays camp was really cool. I mean, that's a really deep system and anywhere you look. But I mean, I would have liked to have seen what Angels camp was like. I would like to have seen, especially Padres camp, which you got to go to. Pretty jealous of that, and White Sox camp kind of similarly. So I don't know. I hadn't thought about it that way, to be honest with you.
You know what I'm bummed about? I was at Padres camp 2 days ago, and we'll hear from a member of that organization here in a little bit. But the day before that, the day when I was at Angels camp and at A's camp prior to that, the day before that, the Padres had a day on the backfields in which Mackenzie Gore was on one field throwing and Adrian Morejon was on the other. And I was talking to somebody at camp yesterday who said, like, they started the games, I think, like 5-10 minutes apart. So the scouts could go from watching, say, Mackenzie Gore first, and then when his inning was over, they'd walk over and watch Adrian Morejon, and then when his inning was over, they'd walk back. That I'm very bummed that I missed, because that must have been amazing. But I did get to see Luis Patino yesterday throw a little bit. He was really fun to watch, and there are definitely a lot of really interesting components to a lot of these systems. But I don't know, just you know what I think it is because there's no Josh Jackson here with me this year.
Yeah, see that could
it's
be
just
it.
like it's a little quieter.
I think Josh would just bring so much
lamer.
enthusiasm that everything would feel exciting.
He does. And we have good existential talks and everything. It's we miss you, buddy. We miss you. But he's got a new dog to take care of. So he's occupied. But yes, to wrap this thought, Arizona, I've been down here for the last few days and got a chance to visit a whole bunch of camps. Went to Rockies camp on day one because we have our prospect primers already rolling out, which every year without fail I save in my computer as Organization All-Stars. But I started the Rockies prospect primer story, got a chance to talk to their farm director, Zach Wilson. Also talked with former first-round draft pick Riley Pint for a story that's up on the site right now, and kind of gave him the angle of, you're not really a guy that people are front of mind with right now. What does that feel like? And he was very relaxed and was like, it's kind of nice. Like, I'm not out here signing autographs. It's not all the commitments that I had from a couple of years ago. And guy who is back to health and feels like he's ready to go for this season. I had Oakland Athletics camp as well 2 days ago and got a chance to go actually from A's camp to Angels camp. The A's sent their AA and AAA over to Tempe to play in games against the Angels prospects and caught up with Oakland's number 3 prospect, catcher Sean Murphy, who could not have been a better interview. And I have to give Sean Murphy a specific shout out. He was a fantastic interview while walking to the bus. They got done. I knew they were leaving. I was like, hey, you want to talk for a few minutes and walk? And he was like, yeah, sure. And he stopped for a second, and we talked for a little while. And then I was getting set to ask him another question. He was like, actually, yeah, do you want to walk? Because I don't want to miss the bus. And I was like, I don't want you to miss the bus either. And then gave me a whole bunch of like really thoughtful answers while we were walking. It's not an easy thing to do. But Sean Murphy, that story is up on the site as well. Went to Padres camp yesterday. You will hear an interview from Padres camp that we'll set up here in a little bit. And then Mariners camp there as well, the same facility in Peoria. And was going to try to talk to Jared Kelenic. He was actually given the day off yesterday. The New York Mets first-round pick from last year was traded to Seattle in December. And then today was a little bit lighter day. Went to Brewers camp in the morning and caught up with Keston Hiura, who is still in Major League camp. They did tell him yesterday, and we're recording this on Thursday night, the 21st. They told him yesterday that he will be going to AAA San Antonio to start the year, which is weird to say AAA San Antonio. But the new AAA affiliate of the Milwaukee Brewers, he'll be headed there, but he's still in big league camp right now, and so just kind of soaking up those lessons. And there's a lot of excitement with these systems, whether it's the Padres where you feel like if you spin around in a certain area, you're going to slap a top 100 prospect somewhere. It's between that and, the A's coming off of a season where they surprised everybody, and now they're getting all these dudes closer to the big leagues. Obviously, there's Jesus Luzardo news that we'll talk about today, but A.J. Puck seems to be back and healthy. Some of the things that maybe they were lacking last year in pitching depth, that stuff's coming along. The Rockies are coming off of back-to-back playoff appearances for the first time in franchise history. They've still got some guys who are on the verge of graduating. So it's been fun. It's been a fun few days, and this is always a good week. It's always one of the best weeks of the year. And it's such a strange stretch this time because Major League camp wraps up for teams on Sunday. The big league teams are out of here on Sunday. Minor league guys will hang around for another few days, and then minor league opening day the following week. But major league opening day is the 28th, unless you're the Mariners and A's, in which case you got 2 down already of 162. But it's strange because it's, the Mariners and A's, their big league camps have been gone for like a week, or their big league teams, I should say. Everybody else is going to be gone on Sunday. And then I was talking with Ed Sprague, the A's coordinator of instruction. I said, it's kind of like being in class with your teacher being gone. Like all the minor leaguers are just going to be around. Coaching staff on the major league side is going to be gone. All the big league guys are going to be gone, just like hanging out, doing your own thing on the minor league side. But it's been fun. It's been a good several days.
Yeah, no, it's a busy several days too. I mean, you mentioned a couple times in there one of the benefits of Arizona and getting to go to multiple camps.
Yeah,
which I'm always really, really jealous of. With Keston Hiura, what was that conversation like? I read your story and it was very good and really interesting. And I think you made the point on Twitter how funny it is how people take to him, and people who know him well are excited for him. But what was the conversation like for somebody who is in big league camp but knows he's starting elsewhere?
Yeah, it was interesting because, he said, I'm just going to try to do whatever I can wherever they send me. And then he caught himself and said, in San Antonio. So you could tell that he's just kind of been in this mindset of getting set, knowing he probably wasn't going to break camp with a major league team, but getting ready for wherever he was going to be to start this year. I think it would have surprised pretty much everybody if he was sent back to Biloxi to start the season with how strong he finished there. But the one thing that I really like about Keston Hiura, and I've talked to him, I think this is our first in-person conversation, but I think it's the third or fourth time that I've talked with Keston. And I'll say this, this is such a small thing, but if you're a young athlete or a young journalist, this really stuck out to me today. He's sitting in his locker. The Major League Clubhouse opened at about 8 o'clock, and I walked over to him and just said, hey, Keston, I'm Tyler Mon with Minor League Baseball, MILB.com. And he stood up and he said, hey, Tyler, I'm Keston. and just stuck out his hand, shook my hand. And guys always, they'll shake my hand, they'll be polite. But to introduce yourself to a reporter, I thought was just like very mature and very, you know what I mean? Like that's just it's a little tiny thing that just makes you feel like, oh man, yeah, this kid's got something. And there is an aura about Keston Hiura, I will say that.
Yeah, no, I mean, there usually is in guys who are first-round picks. I was thinking about this the other day and how, we usually judge first-rounders harshly and, what type of person gets to be a first-rounder is usually talent-filled, but it's also usually character-filled as well. People really do their homework on first-round picks, and they don't want to waste it on a guy. Usually they don't want to waste it on a guy with character issues who's going to, make sure he doesn't get much out of his talent. So Keston Hiura fits almost perfectly into that. Brewers knew what they were getting in the person and knew what they were getting in the player. And we're seeing that already with how quickly he's moving up. And, Mike Moustakas experiment at second base, which sounds like it would be a great band name. I'm really interested to see how that's going to work out, especially with Hiura being as close as he is to the major leagues right now. Mike Moustakas is a very good player. What is he going to be like at second base with shifts and all that kind of stuff? It'll be a little different, but here's going to get his chance in 2019. I don't doubt that.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I just thought it was a very cool moment. A dude who has a really good head on his shoulders and is obviously very set for what is to come, but isn't really getting ahead of himself. And I think the Brewers have to be very thrilled with what they've gotten. There were some teams who were kind of scared off from Keston Hiura. There was thought that maybe he had an elbow issue that was going to require Tommy John surgery really early on in his career. That has not happened, thankfully, knock wood, for both him and the Brewers. And defensively, an infielder all through high school. He was moved to the outfield in college. The Brewers put him back at second base, and he actually singled out the shift thing. He said there's a lot of different stuff to learn, at the professional level, from positioning and shifts, and you're fielding and throwing in different areas of the field where you never did that in high school, and even into college. He still took ground balls and did work at second base while he was in college, but he is a very, very advanced prospect in pretty much every regard, and he's an easy guy to cheer for, and Brewers fans have another good one on their hands whenever he arrives at the major leagues. So that has been kind of the run through Arizona. Sam was back home in New York after several days in Florida, and also you headed up to the north. Well, I guess New York is kind of in the Northeast. You were in New England, right?
Yes.
It's all. Yes. You have too many regions. They're all small. I don't know where they overlap. But tell me about the final few days in Florida and the last few days since you got back.
Yeah, in the big non-northeastern state that I was in on Monday. As crazy as that feels now. So I think the last thing I talked about last week was probably going to Yankees camp. So after that, after we recorded, I got to go to Rays camp. I went to Marlins camp, and I went to Nationals camp. Just kind of going through those quickly. Yeah, so I went to Rays camp on Thursday. I went to Marlins camp on Saturday, and then went to Nationals camp on Sunday. One thing that stood out to me immediately when I think about the trip on the whole was getting to see Wander Franco with the Rays. I got to see looks at him from both the right side and the left side, which is really neat as a switch hitting shortstop. One of the most promising prospects we have in the game right now after he tore it up last year at rookie advance Princeton. But he's still very, very young. This is kind of another spring of him. It's very clear to me that the Rays are preparing him for Bowling Green for a full season. Not that it's unexpected, but they were being pretty forthright about that in my discussions in camp. And, in my looks with him, he hit two screamers, one of which went right at the shortstop. Probably would have been a hit if it's, an inch to the left, inch to the right. And the other one was actually a really, really good piece of hitting, batting from the right side, I think it was. Yeah, it was from the right side. They put on a hit and run, the Rays did, and he saw that and put the ball right where the second baseman would have been. You could see it. He was sitting back on it. He was angling it. He was doing everything you should be. It just really speaks to his hand-eye coordination, how good that is at this young age, what he is able to do with the bat, his sense of what to do in certain situations. It's not just I'm going to put up the best exit velocity I can and hit this as hard as I can, and that's how I'm going to stand out and get my hits. It's doing situational hitting, which you don't see that young age. It's usually just, I'm going to show off all my tools and we'll refine this later. He's already at that spot, which is really neat to see. Again, only 2 at-bats, as small a sample as you can possibly get. But when you can see the talent coming through like that, it's really, really exciting. Speaking of seeing the talent come through, I got to see Jorge Guzman pitch. Actually, I shouldn't say Jorge Guzman. MLB came out with a pronunciation guide. I don't know if you saw this, Tyler. They came out with
I saw some of the posts about it. Yes.
Yeah, so they came out with this pronunciation guide for guys who are either in big league camp or on the 40-man roster. Very helpful. I'll be the first to admit I'm not always great with pronunciations, but the man previously we believed to be Jorge Guzman wants to be called George Guzman.
Okay.
That's how it's said.
I remember Jorge Posada did that for a little while.
Yeah, so we're gonna go by what the pronunciation guide said. George Guzman. A lot of people might know him as one of the prospects who came over in the Giancarlo Stanton trade. The Yankees or the Marlins, a lot of whom have come from the Yankees, led by Gary Denbo, loved Guzman's velocity. At the time, they were saying he's the hardest throwing starting pitcher in minor league baseball. Claims he would hit 103. I think he backed that up last year at Class A Advanced Jupiter. I didn't have a velo gun on me. I can't tell you what his velo was, but just anecdotally, the ball has a different sound coming out of his arm. It's really neat. It's got a audible zip to it. It just pounds the catcher's glove. What I could observe were the results. I mean, guys were just rolling over the fastball. Couldn't touch it. He was playing with AA players mostly, or going up against AA players mostly. So, that's about the level he probably should be. The off-speed stuff, even now, I didn't see much improvement with it. The only thing that was advantageous about the breaking stuff, or even the changeup, was that it wasn't coming in at 100 miles an hour. So if you're sitting velocity and all of a sudden you have this breaker coming at you, it's going to get you off balance. Upper level hitters are going to be able to take advantage of that. Maybe they start sitting breaking ball more, knowing they can't touch the velocity, because when they do, it's not sharp enough yet. It's not really like he knows where it's going entirely. It's just a different look. So I would like to see him tighten that up. But he threw 2 innings in my look, and in those 2 innings, it's real easy to see how he could be an elite reliever someday. Something along the lines of Jordan Hicks, what the Cardinals have done with him. Marlins are going to try to make him a starter as long as they can, but Guzman was really cool to see. Also got to see Victor Mesa homer. He's coming off a hamstring injury that has held him back. He wasn't running at all. He was DHing. Anytime he made contact, wasn't actually running the bases, but he actually homered. So that was pretty cool. It was like a walk-off. He went deep to left and then just walked back to the dugout because he wasn't allowed. Major League camp, wanted him to come in healthy, start off 2019, but to see him in game action like that and start to get his swings together is certainly encouraging. Over in Nats camp, I actually saw more Mets than I did Nats, to be honest with you. Saw a little bit of a boom in the Major League game, but what really stood out to me was Pete Alonso homered in the Major League game, went oppo on a ball that looked like he just flicked it out to right. A lot of discussions in Queens right now about, Pete Alonso has basically earned his way onto the Major League roster. Nobody's doubting that. With what he did in 2018, leading the minors in home runs, he's taken that power to the spring. He's done everything he should have to win a Major League spot. Defense is still questionable, but at least the bat is good enough and ready. And Mickey Callaway has even said there's no case against him at this point. Are they going to put their money where their mouth is? Are they going to let him be on the opening day roster? Still kind of up in the air. Dom Smith has also had a strong spring. Not stronger than Alonso's by any means. Maybe strong enough to kick Alonso to Syracuse. We'll see how that goes. But also on the backfields, I saw Denson Lindsey hit a triple, which is really neat. He's somebody who's really tooled up. The Mets have always talked about if we can get him out there for 100-plus games, he'll be a really exciting prospect. That just hasn't happened yet in his career. But I got a flash of that. He probably could have gone around inside the park, to be honest with you. I kind of wanted the third base coach to send him, but they didn't do that for obvious reasons. It's spring. You don't need to be pushing for that. But really good speed. hit the fence on the fly. Really cool stuff out of him. And I got to see Tim Tebow homer, which was...
I saw some dude with no Twitter photo respond to your video of it with "stop" in all caps.
Yeah, that was interesting.
They're always out there.
Yeah, they're always out there, and they say nobody cares, and then it's my most viral tweet of the year.
Oh, and they're taking time out of their day to respond to it, to tell you how little nobody cares.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I probably wouldn't have posted it. Like, I wouldn't have posted it if he had rolled over to second base. Like, that's not what I would have done. But I literally just like, oh, I guess Tim Tebow's hitting now. All right, let me get up to the fence, put up my phone, and he homers on the first pitch. I mean, that was just like... It was something, and of course, as people pointed out, it happened on a Sunday, which of course it did.
Oh boy! So yeah, we're counting down the final, I guess, really hours of our spring training voyages for this year. I will head out tomorrow, and it's been good. As always, it has been good. This year made me realize how much I really want to come back and do the Arizona Fall League again, which I haven't done for the last couple of seasons. So maybe this year. That was a news item this week. Major League Baseball announced some changes to the AFL. Sam posted those. It will now start September 17th, the day of the AAA National Championship game. The AFL will kick off. So that is really something for people who, let's say, write about minor league baseball for a website about minor league baseball. Used to be that there was a little bit of a layoff between the AAA National Championship game and the Arizona Fall League, and those folks, we will say, have been robbed of that. So that is something. But strike three. We're going to talk Eloy for strike three. Is that what we decided?
Yes.
Yes. Eloy Jimenez, according to a source cited by Jesse Sanchez of MLB.com, quote, "The club, the Chicago White Sox, is finalizing a long-term deal with a highly touted outfield prospect expected to be worth a maximum of $77.5 million over 8 years, including 2 club options, and contain a $2.5 million signing bonus. The club has not confirmed the deal, which will guarantee Jimenez $43 million, a source told MLB Network insider Ken Rosenthal. Official announcement could have come as early as today. It did not, but this is very interesting news. This entire week has been rampant with news of extensions. Obviously, Mike Trout with what he signed with the Angels, but now we're seeing these young guys, and in Eloy's case, a guy who has not logged a single major league at bat signing a lengthy and valuable extension. There is so much that goes into this economically and with the business of baseball that is way over both my pay grade and also my intellectual level to understand. But this feels like it is the start of a sea change in the way things are handled in baseball. We're not seeing these big long-term contracts handed out to players who are over 30. Now we are starting to see, Blake Snell agreed to an extension this week, the Cy Young Award-winning left-handed starter with the Tampa Bay Rays. Alex Bregman agreed to an extension this week, the third baseman with the Houston Astros. This is maybe the new thing that teams are going to do. They're going to try to lock up these guys, avoid the arbitration years, maybe lock down their first 2-3 free agent seasons. This is pretty fascinating, and for Eloy Jimenez, that's $43 million if you never make the major leagues. $43 million. Pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing I keep coming back to is that, yes, I mean, on the whole, it should be said, this is a team-friendly deal.
Right.
We saw, I mean, Tyler, you probably know the exact figure. I don't have it offhand. What did Nolan Arenado get?
I believe it was $260.
Right, but what did he get in arbitration for his final year?
For this year it was, they never finally got down to a number. They agreed to the extension beforehand, I believe, but he came in at $26 million. The Rockies countered at like $22 million, and I think $23 is about what they were figuring he was going to end up getting, which would have been a record for arbitration given to, I think, any position player.
Yeah, no, he got 1 year, $26 million.
Oh, okay. Then I am an idiot.
Well, it set a record, apparently. I don't know. That's according to Purple Row in 2019.
Those guys.
Yeah, those guys. He agreed to a 1-year, $26 million contract. So that was in 1 year of arbitration. So if we look at that, you look at the Eloy deal, you would think like, well, he could have had $26 million in 1 year, and that's later on down the road, and there's probably going to be salary increases. So yes, it's possible that Eloy would have made a lot more money, but this is a lot of money he's getting offered right now. Doesn't have to worry about, the whole 1 year agreements, pre-arb, all that stuff. Like Blake Snell, you mentioned, signed an extension with the Rays, but before that, they just renewed his contract. He didn't agree to the contract. When you don't have arbitration, you don't set your salary. The team essentially sets your salary. They might increase it every year just to make you feel good and make you feel welcome and as a sign of good faith, but that doesn't necessarily have to happen. They can only, but legally they only have to give you the minimum salary, which is, I think, it's definitely six figures. I think it's around $600,000. So Eloy gets to avoid all of that, doesn't have to worry about all of that stuff right now. He gets to make seven figures in his first year. That's a lot of money to have on your plate right away. Doesn't have to worry about going through arbitration, which if you hear any baseball player going through arbitration, it's a really rough process. You have the team that's trying to employ you arguing against you in front of arbiters that you are bad and you deserve less money. Meanwhile, they would love you to come back and play, please. It's a really tough process. He gets to avoid that. He doesn't have to worry about service time concerns anymore. It's going to be a sticky wicket for the White Sox, who say, they send him down. They legitimately optioned him weeks ago, saying he needed to go to Charlotte to get more at bats. And now they signed him to this deal, and he's probably going to be the opening day right fielder. How do they wiggle out of that and say like, oh, we didn't think he was ready then, we think he's ready now? That's a thing they're going to have to deal with. But I don't fault Eloy Jimenez for taking this money, because yes, he can look at Nolan Arenado and say, I think I could be that in 6 years, but that's really tough to say when you have guaranteed money on the table in front of you. It does come with two options. Those two options are club options. That means that if the club really likes him, they will pick them up. And, if he has the type of career we all think he will, they're going to do that. And that's going to eat up some free agency for him. So he's not going to be necessarily in a position like Bryce Harper was this offseason, or Manny Machado. He's going to be entering free agency a little later than those guys. He would anyways, because he didn't enter the majors as quickly. But still, he's going to be entering in his late 20s, maybe even early 30s. And as we're seeing, that's a tough time for free agents. But again, I just can't begrudge a player for taking this much guaranteed money on the table before he gets to show what he can be as a major league player. We had this a couple of years ago with John Singleton. He signed a deal before he was a major leaguer that did something similar, got him a bunch of guaranteed money. I think it was $10 million. It wasn't that much at the time, but again, $10 million guaranteed. And George Springer had a similar offer. They were prospects coming up through the Astros system at the same time. Springer had an offer around the same. He denied it. He chose not to take it. And it's interesting now looking back, because Springer probably made the right move. He's definitely going to make more than that in arbitration and in the years to come. Singleton, no longer a major leaguer, no longer. I don't even think he's a minor leaguer anymore.
No, he's not. He hasn't played since 2017. So you can't even necessarily say that he made the wrong move. John Singleton has $10 million, never made the major leagues. He's set up for life. That's kind of the risk. And that was my first season with MILB, and I remember there was a lot of really negative player reaction to that, especially from the union side, feeling like the organizations were going to start manipulating players. And, for certain guys, John Singleton ends up not making the major leagues and out of baseball after 2017, still got $10 million out of it.
Yeah. And I mean, that again, the union, that's not the example they want to set.
Right. They
want to tell players like, this is what you could make, this is what you should make.
Right.
And I'm not begrudging them from doing that. But I hope this is the start of this, not necessarily of guys taking the offers, but that they are substantial, that they aren't John Singleton money, that they're not even Scott Kingery money, that they're legitimate, maybe the next one's going to be 50 plus million. I mean, who knows what the Jays are trying to do right now with Vlad Jr. And whether it's in his best interest to take that. But Brandon Lau signed a contract with the Rays that is going to take up some free agency time for him as well. You mentioned Mike Trout signed his extension. Paul Goldschmidt also signed one today. Blake Snell. What kind of trickle down effect is this going to have, and how far is it going to go? Is it going to be until guys are major league ready, or is it going to be even before that when a guy has a breakout year? Let's say somebody like Alex Kirilloff or Royce Lewis, you sign them to a major league deal. You can option them for sure, but like you lock them down that early. Is this where we're going to go eventually? I'm really interested to see what the trickle down effect is going to continue to be. But for right now, Eloy Jimenez gets his money. Congratulations to him for doing that. And we'll see what kind of long-term effects this has.
So that is 3 strikes for this week's episode. We do have one foul ball. There was some news earlier this week. The Toronto Blue Jays announced that they were going to give all minor league players, every single prospect in the organization on the roster of an affiliated club, a raise of at least 50%. And the conversation coming out of that seemed to have either spurred or opened the door for there to be some transparency about the fact that Major League Baseball is now having what seem to be relatively far along conversations with the National Association of Professional Baseball Clubs, which is the what as minor league baseball, as to improving pay across the board, improving travel situations, improving living conditions, all that type of stuff. This is a potentially huge development, and it's obviously still very early on, but it took the Blue Jays really to push this snowball and get it rolling. And I listened to some scouts at Tempe Diablo Stadium the day that news came out, really start to talk about what this could mean potentially for players. And I think the agreement around the game is just how beneficial it would be, even just from the player standpoint of, getting some better meals or being able to sleep in a more comfortable situation, developmentally, how much that would benefit guys. But this is potentially a huge, huge development in the major league, minor league relationship. Yeah,
it's going to be really interesting too to see, if teams follow through on this. Like you said, The Athletic had this story about minor league pay, and then shortly after that story, the Blue Jays say they're increasing salary, and then shortly after that story, other ones come out that Major League Baseball is talking about increasing pay across the board for minor leaguers. Would love to see it. We know a lot of the situations these guys are in, and it should be. They are asked to do a full-time job, and they should be treated as such, and they should be paid, hopefully a living wage to make that happen, and not just rely on signing bonus. So, we'll be watching this closely. Hopefully big changes are around the corner that are going to help out minor leaguers and help give them the best shot to be the best baseball players they can be as they try to climb their way to the majors.
So that's 3 strikes for this week's episode. Coming up, we got a different kind of conversation this week. So often on the show, we talk with guys who are top prospects, or guys who are first-round draft selections, and we hear their side of things, and those are guys who have signed for a whole bunch of money and have some glorious pasts and futures ahead of them. But a lot more stories in the minor leagues are like the one that we're going to hear next, and that is a longtime friend of the site and friend to a lot of you, I'm sure, on social media, Todd Van Steensel, an Australian relief pitcher who has been with the Philadelphia Phillies, with the Minnesota Twins, and now with the San Diego Padres. TVS was released toward the end of last season. We talk a lot about the process of what it takes to go through a very uncertain time as a minor league free agent, and going through the signing process after he had the luxury of going home to Australia, getting a chance to play, getting some innings and some video and all that type of stuff. He'll tell you about that. But it is a very stressful time in the career of any player if you don't know when or if you're going to be playing the game again. And this is one of the real good guys in the sport, and we're really glad that he is back and employed and currently at San Diego Padres camp. But we talk about that. We talk about a whole lot more. Todd Van Steensel, kind of one of the everyday guys in minor league baseball, joins the show next. hanging out in the backfields at the Peoria Sports Complex with everybody's favorite MILB Twitter follow and friend of MILB.com and Australian relief pitcher Todd Van Steensel. You're a cult hero, man. Welcome. This is your first appearance on the podcast. Welcome.
Yeah, I feel big time now, which is pretty exciting. And being such an old guy, it's just don't get this recognition, so it feels nice.
Well, let's talk about you're in San Diego Padres camp for the first time. It's your third organization, and we wanted to go through kind of what it's like being a guy who gets a job, relatively late in the process. You get a job over the offseason, come over here, your first season in this organization. Not a lot of people know what the minor league free agency process is like, and especially for an international guy on your side, going back to Australia and playing in the Australian League over the offseason. Just walk us through, first off, I guess, your steps to this point. You signed with the Phillies as a young kid. Go.
So in 2008, I signed with the Phillies on my 17th birthday, which, it was really exciting, really fun at the time. I had to finish high school first. So I finished that in 2008. 2009 came over to the Phillies, played in the GCL for a year. Went back to spring training. Wasn't in good shape, but I took it for granted. I can say that now, I've grown up. And they released me, went home, did a bit of self-reflection, realized I had a lot of work to do if I wanted to get back. So put the work in, and the Twins signed me in June 2010. Stayed at home that year, then went to the spring training with the Twins in 2011. Pitched really well in spring training, pitched really well and extended. Broke with Elizabethton, went to short season. Actually got to start opening night against Noah Syndergaard, which was really exciting. But I'll never forget that night because got the first guy out. Opening night, everyone's excited. Next guy hits a home run. Walk the next guy. Next guy hits a home run. And the crowd start booing me. And then all of a sudden I hear one guy in the crowd yell, "Send him back to Australia." And I was like, oh man, I'm way in over my head here.
That was welcome to pro ball.
Yeah. So I finished the year in Elizabethton, and unfortunately after that year I got released again. So I was 2 releases before my 21st birthday, and didn't really know what to do, so I went back to school for a little bit, and then got a call to go play in Holland. So I went to Holland, did that for a few months, and while playing basketball on the street, messed up my elbow. My left elbow, thank goodness. And I had to go home and rehab that, so did all that again. 2013 comes along, I just played back home in club ball. I was playing right field in 2nd grade, just having a bit of fun. Then started pitching the ABL, and just out of nowhere, like my velo went up, I was throwing hard again, and scouts started calling me, and I was just like, oh, this feels like I'm 17 again. People were calling my phone. Then funny enough, it was the Twins that called and offered me spring training in, but I was like, well, spring training's 2 weeks away, I'm not going to waste any time, so I took it. And I was with them for the last 5 years, made 3 All-Star teams, won 2 championships, have a ton of good memories, a lot of good friends, but that came to an end last year, and I hit free agency again, which brought me to San Diego.
So let's go through the free agency process. When you get to a point where you're headed into an off season, and Todd wrote a great piece for kind of an Aussie version of the Players Tribune back home about sort of the minor league lifestyle and the process of what it's like when a team decides that your time has come to an end. You go into the off season, you're a free agent. I guess the nice thing is you get to go home and play in the ABL. You're not just sitting around with the stress of what am I going to do next year. But take us through from September, October. What's the process of contacting teams, of getting those conversations started, and then finally signing a deal?
So the Twins actually released me in August, so my free agency kind of started a little bit early, and I had an agent that got on the phone straight away and sent out feeders to a few clubs. And at the time they're like, we're interested, but there's no space, so just get back to us in the off season. So me and my agent, we took a little break from it all and decided I'll play in the ABL. And once I get some videos, some reports from that, he'll ship them out to a few clubs, and then we'll try and get something going. So ABL came around in November. I pitched in 2 games in the first round, and my velo was good. I was healthy. I pitched well. Got some video, sent it to him straight away. And then, not too long after, the Padres were calling. A few teams were calling, and free agency, I felt like I was 17 again. Everyone's calling. So it was really exciting. And then the Padres presented a really good opportunity, and this was one of the teams I really wanted to come to, so it was easy to say yes straight away.
The process of getting in and getting acclimated with a new organization, you're with the Twins for pretty much your entire adult life, and you get a chance to move up from Fort Myers to Chattanooga a few years ago and pitch really well in AA, but you're so familiar with that span, especially Fort Myers and Chattanooga and that system, and you're familiar with the complex and the personnel and everybody. This is not only your first new organization in a while, it's your first spring training ever in Arizona. You're in a totally different organization, different league. Don't know a whole lot of people coming in. What has it been like getting used to essentially an entirely new lifestyle as a professional?
Any baseball player tell you it's easy to make friends when you join a new team, and that I didn't think that was going to be a problem at all, because baseball players always have something in common. But there were like a few things. My first day walking around the clubhouse, I definitely looked like the new guy. I had a big green and gold Team Australia bag around my shoulders, walking around the clubhouse lost, looking for my locker. Then I had to eventually ask someone where it was. I had to ask someone, where's the dining room, where's the training room, where's the weight room, and I'm walking around the clubhouse definitely looking like the new guy. And it's just like the small things. So I spent so much time in Fort Myers with the Twins. I could walk into the training room, knew all the trainers' names, knew where everything was. I could help myself to everything. But here I was just, hey, where's this, where's that, hey, who's the guy I have to see for this? It's just all new, but it's baseball. You get used to it. You start to figure things out on your own, and it's all part of it.
When you get back out there, I would imagine everything kind of clicks back into place, and it's just playing baseball again. Your first few times out, wearing a different uniform, working with different guys, throwing to different catchers, especially in game action, which has really just been going on for a week or so over here on the Cactus League side. What has that been like, getting a chance to get back out and actually be competing again?
With the new team, you definitely put pressure on yourself because you want to make a good first impression. And then obviously you put pressure on yourself out of nowhere and things don't go the way you hope it does. And you start to get nervous when you have a bad day. But like I say, it's all part of it now. You just got to find a way to make it work when you don't feel comfortable. I've thrown 3 innings this spring training at 3 different catches. So every time I go on the mound, I'm having a mound meeting saying, hey buddy, fastball, slider, changeup, 1-3 wiggle. And they're like, all right, good. So it's all new. It's all part of it. It's just finding a way to make it work.
You tweeted this story the other day, and we were talking a minute ago, and you said the other day you were throwing to a catcher who, after you got done, you kind of started up a conversation and realized that he had just turned 17. Is that right?
Just turned 18.
Just turned 18. And so you are 28, which by no means is old, but you kind of refer to yourself as one of the old guys around here.
Yeah.
What is the when you're relating to players who are young, especially somebody who went through so much like you did as a young player, what do you talk to young guys about, especially the younger dudes who aren't high draft picks, who didn't get huge signing bonuses, maybe the international guys? What do you talk to them about what it takes to be successful?
So I got to be a bit of a mentor to a few guys at the Twins for a little while. They went through some tough times, and I was like, if you need anyone to talk to, I'm here, but I'm not going to go out of my way to be like, hey man, I think you need to do this, need to do that. But if you want to come to me, I'll be honest with you, tell you what it takes. I know I'm not a big leaguer, but I've been around for a while. I know how hard it is, being away from home and away from loved ones, especially for the international guys. They're in a new country, they don't know what it's like. So I just like to be someone that they can come to when they need someone, because I feel like I do have the experience, and I've grown up a bit over the last few years. Baseball's forced me to do that, so I just feel like I can be someone they can go to.
The Australian community, I should say that you and I go back a little ways, and it makes me feel very old when I think about the fact that you were 19 going on 20 when we met in the first season of the Australian Baseball League. But you come over here, and right now we're watching a backfield game between the Padres and Royals, and a guy who's working on the coaching side for the Royals, Alan de San Miguel, played for a couple of teams in the Australian League. He's from West Australia originally, and he's been on the minor league side for the Royals for a little while. He was with the Twins for a little while. You see those familiar faces, or you see the young guys who come over. What's it like being part of that fraternity? Because there's something different about the Australian guys, especially the Australian baseball community, which has produced 30-some major leaguers, but really isn't the largest sporting code by far at home. When you see those guys, how cool is that for you?
It's fun. I mean, we have Tyler. We have Jared Dale here. His older brother's Tyler, who I played with. But we have Jared here. I've never really played with him. I've played against him, but you just know he's an Australian guy. He's someone you can go to. You can have a familiar conversation with him. You can talk about the footy back home, talk about meat pies or whatever. And it's just fun to see the Aussies. At the Twins, at one point we had 10 Australians, and we just had familiar faces. We could have that taste of home whenever we wanted. So it's always good to be around another Aussie. And I just got to say hi to D-San 5 seconds ago, which was nice.
There are very few guys who I know over the course of the time that I've been in baseball who have worked as hard as you, and to be 28 years old and still be in it and still have this shot, now be in the upper minors. When you think about the chance that it's still out there that someday you could be in the big leagues, you can make your debut, you could stride onto a mound at Petco or wherever, what does that mean to you now, still being in this versus maybe what it meant to you when you were 17, 18, 19?
Definitely back then I didn't realize how much it would take to get this far. So if I made it somehow at a young age, I probably wouldn't appreciate it as much as I do now. Like, I think about like guys that spend years in the minors and then making it, how that makes them feel and how it makes their family feel like they supported you all these years. Like, you do it for them. Like, they're on this ride with you. You're not alone. Like, if, you know, like, I always think about like if I do get the call up, like that first call I make to my mom, like how crazy it would be to her, and like
hi Don, by the way,
how much it would mean to her and all that. And like, my brother's not a big baseball fan, but I know he's supported me my entire career because he knows I'm doing what I love. And honestly, without that support, there's no way I could still be doing this. Like, there's been times where I've called mom, like, I don't think I can do this. She's like, no, this is what you want to do. I know you want to do it. Just keep going. And you know, you as much as you do it for yourself, you do it for the people that, you know, care about you. And I feel like if I do get that call, you know, as emotional it would be for me, it's what other people have put into it that would make it feel even more special.
Todd Van Steensel is one of the greatest minor league social media followers. You can find him on Twitter at ToddVS35, one of the best dudes in the game, and it's good to see you, buddy. Thanks.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
All right, as everybody just heard, Tyler is still in Arizona, still collecting podcast interviews, still writing stories, still a very busy man, obviously. So it's just me and Ben for this third segment. But that means Ben's back for the first time, I think, in March that we've had him on the podcast. Ben, welcome in. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well, and it's great to be back on the podcast. Yeah, I was took a quick vacation the first week of March, and then you were running around the Grapefruit League and enjoying some spring training action, and our paths have barely crossed, and it's been a strange month, but here we are, like nothing ever changed.
Like nothing
I feel good.
Ever changed, except for I'm working remotely again today, so if anybody thinks this sounds different and we're not in the same room, we can't tell people where I'm sitting in relation to you this week.
That is true. So baby steps. We're not back to normal, but we're moving back toward normal, and that's the most important thing.
And that's our motto for the offseason. Just moving back towards normal to be a closer day before. But one thing we talked about last week that I want to get your thoughts on real quick, Ben, because you weren't on the show and you are such a special part of this show, obviously. It was our 200th episode. This is number 201 for us here at the Minor League Baseball Podcast. You've been on so many podcasts with us. We try to make it week to week. And what is your just kind of reflection on 201 podcasts? What we've been able to put together here and what we're still able to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of fun to be a part of. I remember years ago the brainstorming for this whole idea to put it together and thinking it would be a good outlet, not just for myself, but for MILB.com, and it really has been. And I think you and Tyler have done great work on it. And for me, always trying to build my audience. I've just heard from a lot of people through the years, through Twitter, through email, through people I meet at the ballpark, who tell me they learned about my work and what I do through the podcast first. So I'm also really appreciative of this as a forum for people to kind of discover the sort of work I do about the business and culture of minor league baseball. And I'm truly appreciative to everyone who listens to this segment and to the podcast in general, and who connects with it, and who then therefore connects with me, because that's really what this job is about. Is we're all part of this kind of weird community, and I've always enjoyed it, and I really appreciate everyone who listens every week or however often you listen. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And as we approach the season now, this was a big week, so we should get right into that as well. Copa de la Diversion announcement came this week. The last couple of weeks we've heard about how many teams are going to be involved. We've seen some teasers on colors and how colorful this year is going to be. So I think on Monday we finally got the announcement of which teams are involved, what identities they're taking on. This year, I think the second year of Copa, 72 different teams are being involved, which is really neat. It's really cool to see it expanded out that big. Ben, as you were seeing all the names kind of come in on Monday, and as you you're starting to put together your own ideas on how all this went. What do you think? How does this kind of compare to last year, and what does this next step do in, for Copa de la Diversion and minor league baseball's intent to work with the Latinx Hispanic communities?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a huge thing for minor league baseball to be doing, to try to diversify the fan base. Not only is it the right thing to do, but it just makes economic sense as well. But it's one thing to say you want to do that, and another thing to actually do it. And minor league baseball, has done a great job with this program. From a very small pilot program in 2017 to 33 teams being involved in 2018, where it really became a thing. And then this year to go to 72 teams. So that's 39 additional teams from the number who did it in 2018. More than double the amount. And you see teams taking risks and being creative and being colorful with these identities, and not too many just doing the direct translations or just changing the color scheme, but teams really going all out and creating new, vibrant, unique identities that will hopefully connect with the local fans and draw in new fans, but also just connect with the larger people in the country and in the world as well, just through the internet. A lot of these identities have a lot of power in terms of just being something that anybody would represent, because they're colorful, cool, creative, what have you. And I have a blog post that's be out later today. Here we're speaking on is it Thursday?
It is Thursday now. It is Thursday now. When people hear this, it'll be Friday.
Yeah, so we're all still a little out of sync with everything here, but got a blog post just about to appear here on Thursday, and you can read it anytime. Obviously, it's the internet. But I was trying to focus on the 6 teams that participated in Copa in 2018 who changed their identities to 2019. There's 6 of them, and the thread you see through all those 6 teams is that they did a pretty conservative identity in 2018, maybe just did a literal translation of their name. In some cases, maybe just kept the same name and changed the color scheme. And you see teams who participated saying, okay, if we're going to do this, we really need to go all in and do it with a lot more energy and creativity than we did it the year before. So you're seeing more of that, and you're seeing teams who sat on the sidelines last year for whatever reason, who learned from what happened in 2018, and who in 2019 are coming on, really strong and creative out of the gate. And with 72 identities all released in one day, it is like it's like the Christmas of the off season in terms of so much to unpack and unwrap, or however you want to put it, in terms of processing 72 unique minor league baseball identities all in one day. It's a ton to keep track of. And on Monday, on unveiling day, I systematically created a huge Twitter thread of all 72 identities, so you can check that out at Ben's Biz. But that was also a great way for me. I kind of did it selfishly to make sure I was fully engaging with each identity, and going forward into the season, I have a base of knowledge now as I cover these things on an individual level.
Yeah, and when you're putting these all together, you mentioned there are 6 teams that kind of moved away from just the literal translations. Some of them, like Durham, went from Toros to Mal de Ojo, which is just the stink eye, essentially.
The evil eye.
Yeah. Or El Paso, who went from, they were just the El Paso Chihuahuas, just gonna color it up last year, now being the El Paso Margaritas. So that's one theme we saw. But when you look at 72 different identities coming out at one time, were there any trends or themes that you were able to kind of piece together?
Like a lot of things with minor league baseball, sometimes it's hard to identify trends when there's just so many, but I think certainly a trend with unique identities and not just the direct translations, a trend in really vibrant colors, speaking to Hispanic culture, and also just speaking to kind of breaking through the clutter of the internet and having something so vibrant and unique that it's going to get a lot of attention. I think trends, and we saw this last year, but it's continuing, trends along the lines of celebrating Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos, because of what a visually powerful holiday that is, and how it does tie into the overall Copa messaging and branding. So you see a lot of teams doing something along those lines. Beyond that, there's also just like minor league baseball, there's a lot of diversity within this, and a lot of cool animals. And maybe they're mythical animals, or maybe they aren't, but just things that maybe aren't traditionally represented in the sports landscape.
Yeah, and that was one of the interesting things to me as well, is just how diverse the different types of things. There were animals that were speaking to that, Ben, you had one blog post up shortly after about your favorites for this year's Copa identities. What ones stood out to you on kind of a personal level, or which ones do you think were the most important?
Yeah, in putting this together, it really was tough for me to narrow it down to 10. I tried to focus on new identities that debuted on Monday and not ones that were returning from 2018. So the ones I picked, the Calaveras State, West Michigan, with a really unique skull logo that has West Michigan area code of 616 and the eyes and nose kind of incorporated in the skull, and it's kind of like an Easter egg hunt of little clues in that logo. So I really like that one. Usually I'm not too into the direct translations, but I love Myrtle Beach Pelicans, the Pelicanos de Myrtle Beach, because they kept their existing Pelican logo, but then they made so it's like flapping its wings, or its wings are completely spread out, and they're all different colors, and it's just such a striking logo. So big fan of that one. Medusas de Lakewood, an octopus logo. It's a Jersey Shore team, and Medusas is such a cool name too. So that one was on there, and and on and on and on. The Soñadores de Hillsborough, who last year they just did a direct translation of Hops, the Hillsborough Hops, but now Soñadores, the dreams, which whether they're saying so explicitly or not, you can't help but think of the Dreamers, and that issue in American culture, and so I really like that one, and you could definitely do some societal commentary with that one. Llamas de Hickory, such a cool looking llama with the very colorful head covering, and chomping on a leg, like a chair leg, because apparently Hickory has a furniture making history, which I did not know.
What that is. Okay, I was wondering where they got that from.
Yeah, it looks like he's kind of smoking something, but it's chomping on a furniture leg. The Xolos de Gwinnett, that's Xolos, and that's short for Xolos. I can't even say the word, but the national dog of Mexico. But how cool is it just to have a team that starts with X now? Albeit an alternate identity, Xolos. I just love those letters together. You mentioned the Fresno Lowriders. I got excited about that one just because the Fresno Grizzlies, they always go all out with their promotions, and the taco truck throwdown leading to the standalone tacos identity. So when they're the lowriders, there's going to be a lot of lowriders at the ballpark, outside the ballpark, and it's going to be such like a visual celebration. We mentioned Durham and the evil eye, the Mal de Ojo. I love that logo and this weird one-eyed creature. A lot to take in there. Gallos de Del Marva, Delmarva Shorebirds play in Salisbury, Maryland. Purdue is located there, so that's a nod to the chicken industry, but they have this strutting rooster as a logo. Pescadados de Carolina, the Carolina Mudcats. That's such an iconic logo they have, the Mudcats, as it is. This catfish, but now it's super colorful and kind of like a fish out of water, taking on a whole new mentality, a whole new way of being. So those are my favorites. I think I hit all 10 as quickly as I could, but there's a lot there, and let me know your favorites on Twitter, email me, whatever. Gotten a lot of great feedback so far, for sure. And Sam, what are your favorites, or at least one or two?
Mine, I said this immediately when it came out, and I think the team was very pleased with me. I may have promoted them a little too hard, but the Clinton Elotes is...
Yeah, they were mad at me. I didn't mention.
But it's just such a fantastic concept, and something that's just so specific, but everybody knows exactly what that means. If you ever had Mexican street corn, you know exactly what the flavor is. Your mouth might be watering right now, just as mine is.
It is wonderful stuff. And if you live in New York City, as we do, it's a street fair staple. And you're walking around New York City on a beautiful spring day, and you're like, oh, street fair. And my first thought when I see a street fair is the corn.
Yeah, and the logo they have is this personified ear of corn, which might look a little weird and a little creepy, but it's got the spices on it. It's swinging a bat with its husk arms. I think that's really neat. And even the E is like written out in cheese or some sort of sauce on it. That so that's really cool. And then that means Clinton, which is obviously in Clinton, Iowa, the area, is going to be serving a lot more Mexican food. That's only a win for everybody involved. So I thought that one was really neat. Just to go back to Soñadores,
Yeah, those are both great. And the Monarchas of De Eugene, I didn't mention them because they debuted in 2018, but that's one of my favorite of all of them. And, Eugene, their general manager, Alan Benavides, is Hispanic, one of the comparatively few Hispanic executives in minor league baseball. So I think one of the reasons that one was so well done is you had someone who really understood the experience. Both of Alan's parents are from Nicaragua initially. So whenever you have someone who can really tap into the Hispanic experience, Latino experience, it's just going to be that much deeper and richer and able to connect with the fans in that community.
So we'll be talking about this all season, obviously, as more Copa nights are actually happening and we get to see the interaction on the field. We got to go to Brooklyn last year for a Copa night. That was a lot of fun when they were the FAs. So we'll try to maybe get out to some Copa nights ourselves this year and cover them on the ground. But speaking of promos, Ben, you did a story this week as well. I think it came out today on Thursday. You've been doing this series this offseason, working with Charleston, working with the River Dogs, on kind of the making of a promo. And now that promo has finally been announced, and it involves the NBA draft. They're going to be doing a promo on April 13th. What can you tell us about now that the promo is announced, it's completed, and how this process kind of works?
Yeah, I mean, the point of the series was to kind of try to give some insight into the off-season long process of brainstorming a promo and how many moving parts need to be in place, and how sometimes ideas are great but they don't translate to reality because there's so many boxes you have to check to make something work. So in this part 3 of the series up on MILB.com, the Charleston River Dogs promo schedule is out, and the promo that we've been kind of hinting at in previous articles is now official, NBA Draft Night. And there's two interesting elements with this. One is they're wearing jerseys that are like formal wear on the outside, the same way that NBA draft prospects on the night of the draft are always dressed in very eye-catching, formal attire. But also how those guys often lift their suit jackets. And on the inside suit linings, they have, art that is personally meaningful. So on these River Dogs themed jerseys, they actually have team logos on the inside. Like you can unbutton the jersey and then open it up to show the River Dogs logos on the inside, and that's never been done before. So you have a unique, never before done themed jersey element. But I think the real hook of the promo, and it did take a lot of off-season planning, is that Nate Corrant, the person I worked with on these stories, River Dogs promo director, he scheduled this draft night in April. This NBA draft night in April and not June, but there's a reason it's in April. It's more than 60 days before the draft takes place. And apparently, I did not know this, anyone can declare for the NBA draft as long as they are 19 years old and a year out of high school. So at the ballpark that night, the River Dogs will be set up a place on the concourse and have people be able to fill out paperwork so they are actually eligible for the NBA draft, and the team will send them all to the league offices. So on draft night in June, there will be all these River Dogs fans who have declared themselves for the draft and who are theoretically eligible. And I said to Nate, did you talk to the NBA about this plan? And he was like, nah, I didn't. I just didn't want them to tell me not to do that. So, they're just going for it. And I think that's a funny hook, and that speaks to me, the spirit, not just of the River Dogs, but of minor league baseball. If you have an idea, try to find a hook that no one's ever done before.
Yeah, that speaks to a dream I've had, and probably a bunch of other people have had too. I always wanted to just declare for the NBA draft and make it a rule that the NBA live games would have to make me as a free agent, because I was technically part of the NBA. So I'd have 15 jump shot, 10 rebounding, whatever, but I would have to be in the game because I'm technically an NBA free agent. So I'm sure it doesn't work that way, but this taps into a lot of dreams that I think.
Absolutely. And your grit or hustle, the intangibles would be off the charts.
Sure. Yeah, let's go with that, because the things they can actually measure would be very, very low.
It's what's inside that counts.
Yeah, speed and all that. So those are the two big stories we had out this week. What else is on your radar as we close in on opening day, just I think 2 weeks away?
I think the main thing is finalizing my road trip schedules. Still working on that. I'm going to be going to less places this year, but hopefully more time in each place. And some of the details are still being worked out, but that's a big priority for me right now, as well as just making sure I have every single team's promo schedule in my spreadsheet and logged and ready to go. So a lot of this is just, crossing the T's and dotting the I's as we move toward opening day. And that's about where we are. And still trying to make sense of Copa in the meantime, because 72 identities, man, it takes a long time to process.
Yeah, I feel like there's going to be a bunch of them that we're going to talk about during the season that we just passed over on Monday in the days. That's the cool thing about this initiative. It's going to provide tons of things for us to talk about and go over and watch. Follow that for the next couple weeks and months as we begin the season here, like I said. Ben, thanks for being back. It's so good to have you back. Follow Ben on Twitter at BensBiz. Find the blog, bensbiz.mlblogs.com. And yeah, thanks for joining us, Ben.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to be back, and I hope we never go this long again. It was just too, it was just too long a time. That's all I can say. We need to do this regularly, or else I get depressed.
Never leave us.
Yes, I will. I never will again.
Final segment of this week's episode of the show before the show. Big thanks to Todd Van Steensel. You can find on Twitter at ToddVS35. Big thanks as well to Benjamin Hill. Yeah, Copa being back this year, very cool. I got a chance to write up the story for it and went into the creative process with the Tri-City Dust Devils, who will be the Vineros this year, the winemakers or the vintagers. They got a really cool logo and a really cool story behind that whole development and what it takes to join the Copa process and fan engagement and local community engagement and all that. And it's just such a great initiative, and the logos are great this year. And it's really cool to see the way teams are taking this and running with it and making it their own.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite of the ones that got announced?
I don't know if I can pick one. There's one that I really love that is it's an understated one, but Delmarva came out with one. They are the Gallos, the Roosters, and their logo looks like you could take that logo and plop it into like the mid 1950s in Cuba, and it would look exactly, it would look perfect. It's just this very classic looking roundel logo, a circular logo. It says Gallos de Delmarva, and it's got the rooster in the middle of it, and it says baseball club or Club de Baseball on the bottom, and it's awesome. I love it. But I don't know if I can pick a favorite. There's so many good ones. You?
All right. Well, at least you named something, because I was going to say you definitely can. We just had a whole segment of Ben listing his 10 favorites, so you can pick one.
It's my cop out.
Yeah, fair enough.
They're like my children. I can't decide. So that'll do it for this week's episode of the show before the show. Thanks for tuning in. You can get in touch again. Podcast at MILB.com. Sam is at Sam Dykstra, MILB. I am at Tyler Mon on Twitter. And yeah, very few of these left before actual baseball. And for Sam, I'm Tyler. We'll talk to you next week.